Hello and welcome to the lunchtime crew who are joining us once again at All for United. I'm Ben. This is a United Daily, the podcast where we discuss the biggest Manchester United talking points every day, Monday through to Friday at lunchtime live with some fantastic guests. And of course, as ever, we are not disappointing today. As normal, Daniel Nardiello, former Red Academy graduate as well, joins us on the show. Dale, unfortunately, is poorly. So we thought we'd get a super sub in today in author John Silk. John, I've been waiting to do a show with you for a very long time now, so it's good to have you back on the show, mate. Thank you for joining us. So Daniel, John, and me are going to be discussing tonight's game against Crystal Palace. Look, you can get involved with the show. We really want you to get involved. So come over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/allforunited, and jump in the live chat. Also, it will mean a lot to all of us if just right this second, you can quickly hit the like button on the YouTube video so we can find other Reds browsing YouTube right now to watch our video. So please, youtube.com/allforunited, hit subscribe, like the video, get involved in the live chat. And without further ado, let's chat about tonight's game, Daniel, which Ollie said that we've got a score to settle tonight after that opening day disaster, the defeat to Palace. So you're expecting a different Manchester United tonight than to the one on the first day of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think United will have a point to prove tonight. I think historically, the last couple of games at Palace have been successful. Won the last couple. It's just been at home at Old Trafford where we seem to struggle. We've lost the last two at home, hasn't it? And obviously with the opening game was very poor. So the lads are going out there knowing it's going to be a tough challenge because Palace are one of them teams. You never know what to expect from them, but they can beat anyone on a given day. So it's up to the lads to get a quick start. Don't be too sloppy and obviously win the game.
Yes, 100%, John. What do you make of that? Do you know what? Whenever I think of Palace away, I think of that Matic screamer in the last minute a few seasons back. What a goal that was. Scored a good few last-minute goals at Palace, actually. John, what about you looking ahead to today? Obviously determined to not repeat, but actually revenge that opening day defeat.
Yeah, I sort of put that out of my memory a bit.
Sorry, mate.
Defeat. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, I was saying sorry. I didn't mean to put it back in your memory.
Oh, okay. No, fine. But yeah, that was a horrible day and a horrible start to the season, really. I think the Spurs defeat wasn't long afterwards. I think sort of two of the first three games were pretty bad. We got a lucky win at Brighton. But yeah, that opening day was just pathetic. And Van der Beek came on, I remember, and got us back into the game. And that was like, okay, let's go for this now. And then we conceded a third. I think I was criticising just about every single player who started that day and was pretty fearful about the season ahead. Fortunately, I would say that things have improved a lot since then, and especially since the Spurs defeat. And I think if we put things into perspective, 15 points behind, 12 points behind if we win tonight is not where we wanted to be compared to, say, 6 weeks ago. But being a little calmer about the whole situation, we've taken a step forward. We've certainly taken a step forward since that opening day. And we've taken a step forward this season as a whole. So, listen, let's get the 3 points tonight. Let's win on Sunday. Because, listen, the fans are allowed to have one eye on Sunday, even if the players aren't. And then, let's see where we are coming into the season. But, yeah, that opening day defeat is something I would like to rectify as a fan. Although, generally, I think sports people tend to sort of try not to focus on revenge too much. So I don't think Ollie should be talking that up too much.
Yeah, thank you for you guys all getting in that live chat, youtube.com/allforunited. If you're on any other platform, come get in the live chat, discuss how confident you are ahead of tonight's game with us and get involved with the show. We'll be talking about players individually and who we'll be picking a bit later on. But Daniel, that team that we did see on the first day of the season against Palace, it was a different team to that we see now, isn't it? They were extremely underfit. It looked like we was trying to play a much higher line that didn't suit our style of play at all and the defenders in the side. So would you say that we've come a long way since that first day of the season, that opening day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what we thought after that opening day and where we are now is completely two different scenarios, isn't it? I think we know City are going to go ahead and win the league. So as far as behind, is it 12, 15 points now behind them? Ultimately, we're second in the table. And we're only a few players off really competing next season. So Ollie's brought the best out on a lot of players. I think some players aren't in particularly great form at the moment. I think Pogba's been a bit of a miss recently as well, because he has been exceptional the previous weeks before he got injured. But in terms of how the team are playing, the style of play, the consistency, I think we've improved, tenfold since the opening game of the season. And away from home, we've been brilliant, haven't we? So it should be, and I hate to say, but it should be a comfortable win tonight.
Oh, you'd hope so. Oh, I'd love nothing better than at half time to be sat here like, do you know what? This game's over. It's fine. It's all good. I think Zaha's missing tonight as well for them too. So I think he was a guy who definitely had a point to prove that opening day of the season and gave our defence a bit of a run around. It's interesting, just so you guys know, Cavani's been pictured with a squad, and we'll get onto that in a minute. So we've got options, we've got players back. Hopefully, Scott's fit enough after playing the full game against Chelsea too, because obviously he did look a little bit unfit, I think, during that game. But John, for you, how important is that midfield battle going to be tonight? We're expecting Fred and McTominay. We think Nemanja will still be out. Pogba's not fit yet. How important for you is Fred and McTominay tonight, and how important is it that they have a good game?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think if he was fit, I think Matic would have started tonight. That seems to sort of be an Ollie thing to go to in certain games against maybe sort of tough lower half of the table opposition. He tends to err towards Matic, especially with his height. Roy Hodgson, his sides tend to be not the most aesthetically pleasing. Which actually reminds me, just briefly, I hope I don't go off topic too much here, but reminds me of that away kit, the zebra away kit. I can see a balloon behind you there from your son's first birthday yesterday, and I'm not sure if there's a relationship between that balloon in the corner behind you and the United away kit.
I hope so. If that's a win tonight, I hope so.
Yeah, right. I mean, actually, we might well end up wearing that unusual kit this evening. But back to your point, the midfield battle. Listen, I think Fred and McTominay came in for a bit of unfair, or particularly Fred came in for a bit of unfair criticism after the game on Sunday. I thought that they were fine. I don't think, he had that shot from just outside the area that went just past the post, as so often does with Fred. But I think both of those are more than capable of helping us get the right result in that centre of the park. But of course, it's also the creativity element. And of course, the concern is by playing both of them, whether we lack that. So listen, I don't think he will, but he might go Van der Beek and Bruno. But I really don't think he will. So I think you're right. I think Fred and McTominay will be key. And they need to be, McTominay especially. I mean, listen, we know what Fred is and we know his limitations. But actually, McTominay, who had a glimmer of a chance on Sunday, he can get forward. He can get goals. I mean, he did play as a striker, I think, right at the beginning of his career or in his teens. So, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things that are different to the opening day compared to what happened then. I mean, we had Fosu Mensah right back on the opening day, and unfortunately, he's just done his knee in shortly after his transfer to Germany. So that's a bit of a pity for the boy personally. But on that opening day, he was a liability at right back. And of course, also another thing about the opening day was, we'd hardly had a pre-season. We had the whole Europa League campaign that basically put us, Man City, and I think anyone else, basically in the latter stages of Europe, had that sort of delay. And you saw with both Man United and Man City that both Manchester clubs had a kind of slowish start to the season. And I think that was largely responsible.
Yeah, good point. I do think that we saw a very unfit Manchester United team on that opening day of the season, and as you said, some square pegs in round holes as well throughout that team. So, but again, the creativity was a problem, and the performance was extremely poor for a Manchester United side against a Palace team that we should be beating or coming away with something at home. But then the games that followed and where we are now, I think, Daniel, you are spot on. We are more or less there. We're a lot better now. We've come a heck of a long way. I think it'd be interesting, Daniel, as a striker. I don't know if you ever suffered badly with injuries, what your injury record was like, but Cavani at his tender age, still picking up knocks, spending time out of the team, not being able to get a clean run. Do you chuck Cavani straight back in tonight if he's showing signs of being ready to play from the off, or do you have to be careful with a player like Cavani? How would you have liked to have been treated in that situation, or how did you see other professionals be treated when they were in the shoes of Cavani?
Well, so it's looking at Cavani specifically. The guy's a machine, isn't he? I mean, he's in that bracket with Ibrahimovic and playing at, obviously not as old, but at an old age, he looks like a physical specimen. He runs all day long when he's on the pitch. He doesn't stop running. He's probably fitter than the other strikers that we have there in Martial, Greenwood, Rashford. You've seen how fit the guy is when he's playing on a weekly basis. So for me, it doesn't really matter whether he starts or whether he comes on. He can make a difference. And I think if he does start, he can come off after 60 minutes once the game's won, or if we need some fresh legs, if James is on the bench or Martial or Rashford, Greenwood, whoever it is that we got to come on, there's going to be youth. There's going to be plenty of fitness and plenty of pace as well. So for me, I'd be tempted to start him if he's up for it and he's capable of doing that. But equally, he can come on and change the game should need be as well. I think he's a great focal point. So for me, I'd play him, have a couple of wingers either side, and then if we need to, we can change it with half an hour to go.
I was going to say, Daniel, how did you like to be treated after a niggle or a knock or an injury? Did you like to be just thrown straight back in there and go hell leather and try and get back into a normal game, or did you like it when a manager would take you their time, take you to the side and go, look, I want to ease you back in because I want more out of you as the season progresses? Of course, United have some massive games coming up.
I think, listen, you as a player, you always want to play, regardless of if you're coming back from injury or you've played the last 10 games and the manager says you need a rest. You want to play. We see that with Bruno every blooming week, don't we? He wants to play every minute of every game. So as a striker, midfielder, whatever, you want to play every game, or I certainly did. But you've got to trust the manager, you've got to trust the process, and you've got to trust the specialists, the physios and the fitness coaches around you who are monitoring your fitness, monitoring your capabilities on a daily basis. The science now is huge, so you've got to trust those guys, and Cavani's experienced enough to trust them. But honestly, he'll want to play, but obviously he'll take whatever on the chin and he'll get on with it and give his utmost no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. I'm completely with you on that. John, what about you? I mean, our options at number 9, of course, are slightly limited in some ways in terms of that, we don't seem to be able to get a tune out of Martial at the moment when it comes to needing a goal-scoring striker full of confidence in that position. Also, Mason Greenwood's still very early on in his development, despite us all wanting him to grow and flourish into a world-class number 9. So would Cavani go straight back in for you today, or do we need to be careful? If so, who comes in, or even theoretically, if he doesn't come in, who should be at number 9 for you today?
If it's not him, then I would probably go Greenwood, but I wouldn't be doing so with any immense confidence. I think Greenwood could end up being one of the best number 9s in the country, but I still think that is a few years into the future. So back to your initial question about Cavani, he's got to start. I think I would understand a bit about, easing him back in if it had been 2, 3, 4 months that he'd been out. I think he's 33, so we're not talking about a 38, 39-year-old here. We're still talking about someone, and as Danny said rightly, I mean, he's just chiseled. He's so fit, and he has no issues, I'm sure, with being thrown back in. And it's like I said, it's only been a couple of weeks. I think if it's 3 or 4 months, then you have to take things a bit carefully, no matter what your age. But I think with his situation, he should just go straight back in. And I think he'll score tonight. If he starts, I think he'll score. This is just perfect for him away at Palace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. Having a poacher on the pitch could make the world of difference. Let's talk through then that starting 11 that we may see today. Of course, we sit at the weekend. This is a midweek Premier League game and not a midweek Cup game. So are we both expecting David De Gea to start tonight? Daniel, let me come to you first.
I think so. I think Ollie's made it clear that he's his number 1 in the Premier League. So for me, there's no reason to change David De Gea as a number 1 spot. I do think he's been pushed very hard, isn't he, for that number 1 spot? But ultimately, Ollie's made that commitment, and I think he'll play tonight.
And John, what about you? David De Gea tonight, or does he bring Henderson in for a bit of rotation?
No, I think stick with De Gea. I think one of the guys on Sunday made a really good point about that kind of game against Chelsea encapsulated De Gea's certainly season and possibly even United career to some extent, in that he made an unbelievable save at one point that kept us in the game, I think in the 49th, 50th minute. But there was also a moment with his feet in the first half when he receives the ball and he gives the ball away basically in a fairly dangerous situation. We know De Gea's strengths and weaknesses. The problem was towards the end of last season and also at times this season, his strengths have also been questioned. So in terms of concentration, in terms of making the odd gaff, those things that kind of he eliminated from his game have sort of started to reappear. But as far as tonight's concerned, for me, he has to start. I don't think Henderson has done anything when he's filled in that's suggested that he's definitely ready to take over from De Gea. And I do think Solskjaer, depending on what happens in the next 3-4 months or 2 or 3 months, I think Solskjaer has a decision to make come the summer. I think the decision will be, do we stick with De Gea? Do we replace him with Henderson? Or and we know that money is tight, as was mentioned in his presser yesterday, does he think about basically getting rid of both somehow, if he can, and bringing a new keeper? I think the last option is probably not going to happen. I just think it's a bit difficult to rid yourself of 2 goalkeepers in one summer, especially with what's going on at the moment. But I do think there's a decision to be made one way or another. And I think those 2 goalkeepers in the next 3 months effectively will be auditioning for their Man United futures.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it'd be interesting to see what happens further down the line. Because as I mentioned on the show the other day, it's pretty widely known, I think, that Chelsea were willing to pay £60 million for Dean Henderson last summer. They were willing to do that. So it's Ollie put his faith in keeping him here, gave him a big new contract. So what's the plan? We have to wait and see because that's a bit blurred at the moment. Right back, I take it Wan-Bissaka. We don't need to debate that, do we? And left back Luke Shaw, I also don't think we need to debate that either. But what about centre back pairings? Who's going to partner Harry Maguire? Daniel, for you.
Well, who will and who do I want? Is probably answers. But I think it's going to be Lindelof because Ollie likes playing Maguire and Lindelof together. He likes them as a partnership. I mean, I don't dislike Lindelof. I do think he's a top quality player. I think he's probably more suited to the Spanish league or the Italian league. But Ollie seems to love him. But for me, I'd still choose, if fit and ready to go, Bailly for me. But I do think he'll go with Lindelof tonight.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if I look back at Crystal Palace's matches, and I know Zaha's potentially out tonight, but obviously they played and got that last-minute winner, didn't they, against Brighton on, was it last Monday? Was it last Monday? Because they didn't play this weekend, did they? No, Fulham. They drew 0-0 with Fulham. The last game I saw was against Brighton. They haven't exactly got goals in their side. Benteke isn't fantastic, but what they've got is a lot of pace. Benteke can run, Ayew can run, Townsend can run. That Eze is looking like a fantastic purchase for them, a really young flair player who's got a lot of pace about him. For me, you match up that pace tonight. You need to. We're going to have to drop that line slightly. If Ollie wants to play that high line that we played against Chelsea, we have to have Eric Bailly in the side because they will catch us out tonight. I don't think Chelsea had the pace to in the first half. Then I think in the second half we noticeably dropped back a few yards to stop that counter attack. I think Ollie tonight with the imbalanced midfield we're going to have with Fred and McTominay, we have to play a high line tonight. We have to box them in their own half and we have to try and play through the gaps and try and play around them and through them because we're definitely not going to be able to counter attack them and hit them hard. They're going to sit in and they're going to try and hit us on the break with a slower defence potentially with Lindelof and Maguire. So I think for me, I would go Eric Bailly tonight because if he wants to have that attacking intent, I think he has to take a risk with his defence. But like you say, Daniel, he loves Lindelof. But I think if he plays Lindelof tonight, it could be a disaster because they've got the pace to catch us. What about you, John?
Yeah, I actually probably go with. I mean, I think Danny also would like to see Bailly play. It's just a case of trying to second guess what Ollie will choose.
Ollie, yeah.
But I would go Bailly as well for some of the reasons you highlighted, Ben, but also some of the reasons that if he was fit, I would choose Matic. I just think that Bailly is a little stronger, perhaps in the air, has a bit more presence there than Lindelof. I think Lindelof is a dead cert for starting on Sunday against Man City. I think he'll go Lindelof Maguire for that game, mainly because I think, again, against these kind of sides, against the Liverpools and Man Cities, he's more keen on, having defenders who can pass the ball a bit better. And I think that's obviously one of Bailly's weaknesses compared to Lindelof. And Lindelof can also carry the ball out slightly better. So actually, I think, and I think maybe Ollie he might actually
rotate
go with what we're saying. Yeah, and I think he might rotate, and I think he might go with, but not just rotate because of Sunday, but also because I think centre halves don't tend to run as much as other people on the pitch, as much as they might suggest otherwise. Their kilometres at the end of the season are not quite as often, which is why we see Maguire, playing minute after minute after minute. But I also think that this aerial threat, particularly if Benteke does start for for Palace. I think Bailly again would probably be a better matchup there. And again, this kind of tricky, dare I say, longish ball, sort of the ball's in the air a bit more often against the sort of middle, sort of lower half of the table side that Palace are, and I hope that's not being too condescending. I think Bailly is ideal for that. You know, he'll throw himself in the way. He'll make life difficult, and I think retaining the ball is going to be slightly less of a big deal, especially with McTominay and Fred anyway already there. So I would go with Bailly, and I think Ollie might too.
Yeah, I would hope so, because also it gives him the opportunity to rotate there, I think, as well. Because like you say, I actually think Lindelof was very, very good. This is no slander or slate on Lindelof. I thought it was actually really, really good against Chelsea. But I just think we're playing a different opposition here, who could potentially hit us on a break like Chelsea tried to, and successfully nearly did get through 2 or 3 times in that first half. And I think if United want to really get this game done in the first 60 minutes, we have to play with that high line. We have to take a risk with our defence, and we have to let Maguire have the space to be able to break forward, like he did against Southampton, where he's nearly a number 10. I just feel like we have to do that, because Fred and McTominay, for what they are quite good at and what they're great at, the one thing that I picked them up and picked them apart for after the Chelsea game was the horrendous passing at times, just a horrendous decision making on the ball. I actually think Harry Maguire is one of our best passers in the team. So the more you can get him forward and interacting with the other players around him with the ball at his feet, I think we've got a better chance of finding that through ball and playing around teams that sit back like Palace. So yeah, I would also, and Daniel, I think you said you would like to. I would, and John, you've obviously said it, go with Bailly tonight. So let's do it anyway.
The thing is, for me, is with the centre-half partnership, they've got to build a relationship. So for me, if he's going to play Lindelof and Maguire on Sunday, he's got to play them tonight. I don't think these kind of players need that rest. They need to have that rotation, especially midfield attackers. I can kind of get it to a certain degree, even fullbacks. But for me, your centre-half partnership is crucial. So whoever Ollie chooses, I do think it'll be the same tonight as it will be on Sunday.
Can I ask you a question on that, Daniel? And I think you've sort of semi-answered it there for me anyway. But I suppose from the teams you've played with and the players you've played with in the past, and even yourself, would a manager ever, in one of these games where he has the opportunity to rotate, before potentially a big game or before a jam-packed run of fixtures, go, right, I'm going to make this change here, and potentially even individually take players aside and go, look, this is your opportunity. I'm going to put you in today. This is your opportunity to prove a point ahead of this game that's coming up to potentially get in my team. Sort of called it an audition. I know you shouldn't use football matches for auditions. 3 points are important in every game. But is that ever a thing? Is that ever a tactic that's used by managers that you know to try and get the best out of not just the player who sat on the bench, the upcoming game, but also of the player who they're putting into that match, if that all makes sense?
I think when managers do that, they may say those things, but ultimately, in the back of their mind, they've got their strongest team for a game in 2 games' time, because they're going to set up a squad, to set up a team to face the opposition in 2 or 3 games' time. So for me, I think Ollie will know what team he's going to be starting on Sunday. I really do, and what players and what kind of style of football he's going to play. And in the attacking positions, you can rotate as much as you want almost. Everybody wants to play, but the spine of the team is crucial. So the 2 centre-halves, central midfielder, and potentially 1 striker, if you're playing the 1 up front, is crucial in building that, that relationship from back to front. And managers will say that, like you said, they will come out and say, you've got a chance to prove yourself here. But ultimately, Ollie will know, and all the top managers know what team, providing all players are fit, what they're going to play on Sunday. Because I mean, everyone's looking forward to Sunday. It's one of our biggest games of the season. We love those games, don't we? And Ollie knows that the fans want to win that one more than anything. So he'll have that in the back of his mind. Of course, he's concentrating on tonight, but he'll know what team he's playing on Sunday, providing everyone's fit.
So you want to see the centre-back pairing today that he's going to pick against City? You want to see that today?
I think so, yeah. I think that's what he should. And I know that's probably not what Pep Guardiola did last night with changing his back four. But ultimately, I think on a personal basis, that's what managers should look to do, just to build that relationship. I don't think Maguire or Lindelof need a rest. I think they need to keep on building that relationship and going confident for Sunday's game.
That's a good point. It's a good point. And I'll take it we're both, because of injury news, and I don't quite know where we're at. Obviously, potentially we'd like to see Van der Beek. Potentially we'd like to see Matic. But are we expecting McTominay and Fred? Do we need to have a debate on that, or do we think that's more or less with the injuries that we've got? No, John?
No, I mean, if Matic is out, I mean, as far as I'm aware, he is. Then it becomes a fairly obvious one. We don't have. I mean, we have some midfield options, but I probably do think that the Van der Beek thing is not going to be happening anytime soon in terms of him being thrown in for games like this. I think the biggest question, it may have been one that you're about to come to, Ben, is Daniel James. I think that's the one. So if Cavani wasn't fit, I would imagine, or if he did choose to put him on the bench, then that would make that a little bit easier, because I think he would then go Greenwood, Rashford, and James on the right. And I think James did pretty well against Chelsea. I think James has been in good form. He deserved to start against Chelsea. And in a way, there's no reason why he should be dropped, because he was possibly, of the front three on Sunday, was probably our best player. Maybe not an obvious threat, but I mean, he's better than any at the harrowing of the defenders, at the closing them down, and the high presses, as they call it these days. So I think that's the real question, because of course, if you do play James and you do play Cavani, then I guess you're playing Rashford left and you're dropping Greenwood. That's almost a 50-50 call for me. That's a 50-50 call for me.
Well, I think we'll stick McTominay, Fred in there anyway. Obviously, Bruno starts. That's just no question. But yeah, let's chat about that, Daniel. Let's start with obviously there's different buts and maybes about this. Look, I think actually we should approach this knowing Ollie and how he manages players. I actually think we'll probably see Cavani on the bench tonight. So I think let's treat this as potentially Cavani could be in and around the squad. So let's have a look at the options around Cavani, so to speak, with him potentially sitting on the bench. So if Cavani starts, I think he goes straight in at number 9, and then what happens around him obviously is a conversation. But let's talk about individual players for you, Daniel. Right now, if you're looking at the battle for that right-hand side, and it's potentially with Greenwood and James, who starts there for you?
I think you've got to start James. I think he's been consistent over the last few weeks. He's scored goals when he's played. He was the better of the three up front over the weekend. And I think, again, looking for Sunday, he could be a real threat for us with that pace on the counter attack, because we are going to soak up a bit of pressure at different points in the game on Sunday. So why not play him tonight? He's going to get that. Get that confidence, hopefully, continue to play him in the team. He's going to build his confidence. He can have a good performance tonight. And if we are comfortable at half-time or after 70 minutes, you can bring him off with a view to start on Sunday. So for me, providing Cavani's, like you said, on the bench, I do think it's Dan James on the right-hand side.
What about you, John?
If Cavani doesn't start, then I think it's quite easy, actually. You put James on the right and Greenwood up front and Rashford on the left. But I'm not sure, Ben, that I know you're sort of trying to second guess Ollie, and we all are to some extent. I think Ollie will start Cavani if he's fit. But hey, let's see. The proof will be in the pudding. Just a quick thing to hark back to that opening day defeat. Apologies for those that want to try and forget it. But there was another thing that occurred in that match, which was Van der Beek came off the bench, but so did Igalo. Igalo came off the bench on the opening day. And I don't remember him playing another Premier League minute again. Now, listen, that's one for you, the Twitter trolls and those that will be watching this as we speak, that maybe he played another 2 minutes at another stage. But I don't recall him putting on the jersey again. And I think that was his kind of last moment, if you like. And he did a job for us, and we're very grateful for that. And he appreciated every second he played in a United jersey. And all, but I do remember that kind of being a bit of a sort of a last thing for him, and so now we're looking at a different direction. I think James should start. The question is really whether James or Greenwood. I would probably, if Cavani starts, I probably would go James, just because I think it would be a bit harsh to take the shirt away from him. So I would go James tonight, James tonight, Cavani. With on the left-hand side, Rashford, of course.
Yeah, Rashford has to play, doesn't he?
Yeah, Martial on the bench and Greenwood too. However, when it comes to Sunday, and I know there's going to be plenty more all for United's ahead of that game, but I do think with one eye on Sunday and also one eye on the future, I do think that Greenwood will be featuring a lot more in the years to come than perhaps Daniel James will. So long-term answer, probably Greenwood. But immediate term, given his form at the moment, I think it would be very unfair to drop Daniel James. Yeah. But we can talk about Sunday another time. But so I'll go Daniel James on the right tonight, Cavani and Rashford.
Yeah, 100%. And what do we think, Daniel, in terms of a scoreline tonight? And what are you expecting from the game as well? How are you expecting it to shape out?
I think United have got to come out the traps. I think we've got to come out the traps firing. We've got to come out fast. We've got to come out on the front foot. I think we've got to attack Palace from the off because they're there for the taking. They're a mid-table team. They're, like I said earlier, that you don't know what to expect from them sometimes. The main player isn't playing, and they're there for the taking. And we could be comfortable at half-time. There's no reason why we shouldn't be comfortable at half-time. It's just how we come out the traps. And I know we've been notoriously slow coming out the traps, haven't we, this season? So if we get it right and come out firing, there's no reason why we can't be 1 or 2-0 up at half-time with a view to, for me, I think a prediction of 3-0 to United.
Love it. All goals in the first half, so we can just sit back and enjoy some tiki-taka football in the second, where we just keep the ball and don't give it away and just pass it around. I like that idea. What about you, John?
I think it'll be a bit tighter. I think we've got a small advantage compared to other years because I think Selhurst Park has been a really tricky venue for us. I mean, as you highlighted at the beginning of the show, that Matic winner that we got, I think we were 2-0 down that night and got it back in the last half an hour. But Palace away has traditionally been a really tricky game, and Palace at home has been a tricky game. So I'm expecting tonight to be similar, but I just think without the fans there and we've seen our away form over the last 12 months, which I think, of course, has been aided and abetted by the coronavirus and that there's no fans in the stadium. So away form, home form is a bit more of a neutral thing. I think we will prevail, but I think it'll be tricky, and I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1. Okay, interesting. I was going to go 2-0. So I'm going to stick with that. And I think the first goal scorer, let's go with Bruno Fernandes. I'm going for me. Just quickly, Daniel, I just want to quickly come over to you. Obviously, once tonight's out of the way and hopefully 3 points are in the bag. It is Derby Day on Sunday. We're not going to hear from you before then, Daniel. Hopefully, John, we'll be able to get you on another show to chat about the Derby, you say beforehand. But Daniel, what are your thoughts going into that game? Do you think we'll really get a sense to see where United are at against this ravenous City side going to the Etihad? Our away form's great, but no, we can't take anything away from how incredible City have been over the past 21, 22 games.
Yeah, well, it's a derby, isn't it? It's a derby game, and anything can happen in derby games. We've seen many derby games over the years, back when City were nowhere near as good as they were, and we'd go to Main Road and get beat 3-1 with Gary Neville giving dodgy back passes and stuff like that. So anything can happen in a derby, and for me, form goes out the window, and it's everyone's going to give that extra 5-10%. And it really could go either way. It's a tough game. It's a really tough game. They've been phenomenal the last 21 games, haven't they? Winning every single one of them. But listening to Paul Merson last night, and he was saying that if anyone can end this run, it's Manchester United. And given the circumstances, what better place to go and do it as well with ending that run that they're on. And yes, it's going to be a tough game. I can't wait for it. But ultimately, United can win that game. We can win that game. We can go there and get the 3 points. Ollie's shown that he can beat Pep Guardiola before on numerous occasions. So why not? It'll be a tight game. I hope it's not like that poor draw 0-0 that we had a few months back. But ultimately, United could sneak them.
Yeah. And just quickly, Daniel, just wanted to hear from you as a former United player in and around the squad and the dressing room. What was it like the days before a derby game? Did you ever can you ever remember being around the club when there was like a midweek fixture then going into a game against like Liverpool or City? Did that ever deterrent focus a little bit? What was the atmosphere like?
No, listen, the players will have one eye on Sunday, of course, on the weekend, because it's a great game and they'll love playing in those games. It's a shame the fans can't be there, obviously, but obviously you always look to them games as a football player, whether you're playing for Manchester United or you're playing for Forest Green Rovers. You look for the local derbies. They're the big games. It's the one the fans are up. You get all the media, the build up to the games. So it's fantastic. So no, it doesn't have an effect at all. I do remember being in and around the changing room. Being almost on the bench a couple of times in the Manchester derby, and there is a bit of extra edge to the game. There's a bit of extra edge in the changing room, and the players are, they're really up for it before the game. So it's something, especially the local Manchester lads, and we've obviously got plenty of them, the homegrown boys they'll be there and wanting to put in the performance because they know how much it means to the fans.
Daniel, John, thank you for that. Fingers crossed for 3 points tonight, and fingers crossed as well for 3 points on the weekend. Just quickly, you were mentioning then about the homegrown lads. You have to go and check out, guys. Honestly, if you've not done already, please like this video, then head over to the channel and check out the United Daily podcast we done yesterday with Tony, Mr. Mujak, who's the historian on Manchester United youth, and academies. Also Roy Kavanagh, MBE, and John Gubber as well, who does a lot of work with the Duncan Edwards Foundation and also with the Republic of Mancunian, with the Red the Religion as well. Go and check out the episode where we talk about where the tradition of Manchester United bloodying youth players from our academy actually started, and it began back in the 1930s. We have some fantastic stories from then, some fantastic stories from the Babes, and throughout all the way out to the class of 92. And do you know what, Daniel? When I said to everyone afterwards that we've got our podcast tomorrow with Daniel Nardiello, every single one person on that panel then turned around and went, I remember watching Daniel for the academy sides and for the youth sides. They all remembered you, mate. So there we go. There's credit onto your name as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, John. Daniel obviously will be back with Dale hopefully next week. If not, we might get the super sub John to come and join us once more. Fingers crossed for 3 points tonight. Take it easy, guys, and we'll speak soon.
See you.